Hello friends and enemies, welcome to or back to Happy for Now. It's me Isabel here with a fun rec video for you today, and that is books over 450 pages. Because listen, as a avowed not a big fan of long romance books, not a big fan of long books, I got a few. I have more than I expected, and that is a treat in and of itself, in my opinion. I'm happy. Like, I'm not mad about this at all by any means. Like, I was like, oh, we actually have a decent sized list. I was shooting for over 500, but I didn't quite have enough that were like there, and a lot that I loved are like right on the cusp of almost being 500 pages. So I was like, 450 is valid. Now, that's not to say like a romance book cannot be long, because they can be. I think that currently we have a situation where some books are too long for their own good, and some books could use a little more length and they're trying to be too short for their own good. Like, we're in this weird thing where like I really miss at times that perfect 350, 325 page length for a romance. And instead it's like, okay, this is either too short feeling or this feels too long. And these are the ones that I think, though they have a hefty page count, are well worth your time and an absolute delight to read. And I'm so glad I read them. I know, like, again, I feel like it's a contentious topic in the community. There's a lot of back and forth on if things are being inflated for reasons. So let's dive in to my list, because I think some of these might surprise you. They may not. I'm not sure. We'll see. Of course, we have Fucking Around, a 500 plus page book, 600 page book, I think. Long, very long, that I read in 2 sittings. And I don't know what to tell you about that besides the fact that I read it in 2 sittings. And I am okay with this. Like, that's not a bad thing. I think this book is definitely for a specific audience. You've got to like white shoes. You've got to be in it for a book that is long and could almost be 2 parts, but instead is 1 part. You can sit down and read half and then read the other half later. Like, there is kind of a nice breaking point around 40 or 50%. It does break, but I also appreciated not getting like a 3-part series like certain authors used to do. You know what I mean? Like, I'm here for it. But Fucking Around, if you haven't heard of it, is a hockey white shoes romance following a physical therapist, doctor, who is in her study program. She has a one-night stand with someone who turns out to be a hockey player on the team she's going to work for her like medical fellowship situation. She gets picked up from the airport. We have a dropped item out of a bag that's embarrassing, and a lot of tension, so to speak, between her and the guy picking her up, who is the equipment manager. And I really appreciated in this book so much the fact that we didn't just focus on hockey players. We really saw the full scope of what makes a team happen and work and be successful, because it is more than just the players. Like, there's so many people there that make these teams and players able to do what they do. So Caleb, our equipment manager, picks her up from the airport. She moves in next door to him. It's a whole thing. And of course we have our, oh no, there's the guy I hooked up with over the summer. Uh-oh. And then we have our broody hero in Mars, who is a giant goalie and a weirdo, because goalies are always weirdos. It's like law. I don't think you can like decide to be a goalie and not turn out kind of weird. They have like they're a bunch. I find it amusing. I'm sure there's some normal ones who are like, we're not weird, we're fine. But yeah, it follows their relationship, and it does move into more polyamorous and a lot of exchanging, which I personally really enjoyed. I liked the development of this. We had enough plot movement, in my opinion, to keep me super engaged, especially with my ADHD. And I do think for some reason and somehow Emily writes in a way that really clicks with my ADHD brain as far as a long book goes, and kept me engaged the whole time. That's a feat. That is a feat. I didn't want to go to bed, but I made myself go to bed, and then I got up the next morning and finished the book. So like, that says a lot for, like I said, someone like me who truly can read 10-15% of a book and not come back to it for a week if I am not being engaged by it. Or I dangle a book in front of myself to get tasks done, because that's all I want to do, right? So I'm like, okay, well, if you do this thing, you can read the book. And this is one of those books for me. Like, Emily Rath writes to my ADHD brain perfectly, and in ways I just truly surprised me at the end of the day at how well it worked for me. But yeah, I think Fucking Around is one of those ones, like I said, it's not for everyone. Super duper for me, and super duper for those of us who love it, and those that don't love it just aren't gonna like it at the end of the day, I think. And you kind of will know if it speaks to you. It is a little melodramatic, it is a little soapy at times, but I also don't know how you develop a relationship with that many people involved and keep it short and concise, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like you have to have that. And yes, the book's a lot of sex, but you know what? It was fun, and I had a good time with it, so that's all that matters. Okay, next up we have a total pivot. Still sex heavy though, and that is Kushiel's Dart. So this is a really long book. I need to finish this trilogy, and I honestly think I might be finishing it sooner than later. But Kushiel's Dart is book 1 in Kushiel's Avatar Legacy. I don't remember what the series is called. Oh my goodness. This is a classic fantasy romance though, okay? I will say heavier on the fantasy, lighter on the romance here. I do think you have to kind of continue the series for the full romance. So I revisited this last year when Cassiel's Servant came out, which I did not enjoy, unfortunately. But upon revisiting this, I remembered the feelings I had the first time I read this book. It is awakening. It like awakened me into my romance reading even more, because this book is very heavy in BDSM themes. Like very heavy, because our heroine Phaedra is chosen by Kushiel as one of her avatars. She's like a red dot in her eye that marks her as like very able to endure pain. And this book is very fantasy heavy and like political intrigue and all kinds of things. And we follow Jocelyn, who's Cassiel's servant, who is like, they're abstinent and stuff. And you have her, Phaedra over here being like very sexual and things. This book series is so good and it's so long and it is worth every single page. So I will note, like, totally worth the read if you are looking for a longer fantasy romance read and you're ready to buckle in for probably 3 books, if not more. I think the later books follow different people, but if you want to read book 1 and like take a breath, you totally can. And I feel like fantasy romance lends itself really well to length usually, but I also think this is one of those cases where this book would have never worked if it was shorter than it is. And I think part of why it works so well is that it has this length to really build this world. And I think Kushiel's Dart overall does just such a fantastic job, like intermingling world building, romance, relationship development between people, like just characters in general. Like, it lays the groundwork so well that I really cannot wait to continue reading it. And like I said, it's one of those ones that I just like can't not recommend. I mean, one of the original printings is like almost 1,000 pages, and some printings of this book are over 1,000. So it just depends on what format you end up picking up. So proceed with caution, but it is definitely a long book. And it recently got new really pretty covers, which is the cover I have up here for you. A Soul to Keep is my next one for you by Opal Rain. I really liked this book. I was surprised at how much I liked this book. This is the Dustwalker Bride series. We follow a girl who is being sacrificed to the Dustwalker, who puts a protection spell over her village every like 10 years or something. And I don't remember the fine-tuned details, and I don't care about them enough to. But she has to go with the Dustwalker, and they like walk through the forest and through the like veil sort of situation and into his world. And she has to navigate a lot of things. It has big Ancient Magus Bride vibes. So if you've read or watched that, I feel like if you liked it, this is a potential monster book to try. Because it definitely has those vibes big time. But I really liked this. He is a very curious creature, and he wants to know more about her and know how to feed her and support, like to take care of her. And she's obviously like terrified because this giant like skull faced dude has taken her into the woods. Not even a dude, but you know what I mean, monster. And it's this like really sweet, it's almost cozy in a weird way, journey for them. And we meet our hero for book 2, that Dustwalker. And that's really interesting. We also get like really nice nuggets of world building in this book, I feel like, for an intro to the world that I'm assuming we will see resolved as we continue as far as like where the Dustwalkers came from. But yeah, I think this one is one of those ones that like if you're looking for a cozier monster romance that's long, this is your pick. Like I said, it's 500 and some pages. There is an audiobook now, which is pretty dang good. I have listened to the sample and I liked it. So that's definitely, I feel like that makes it a little bit more accessible also, because I know for me, long books, not an audio, world ending. Just, it takes me forever. But yeah, I think the Dustwalker series overall, I would like to continue. We're getting book 2's audio soon, so I'll probably try that. I didn't love book 2 as much as I liked book 1, but book 1 for me definitely was an absolute highlight, and I really had a good time with it. So I recommend it. If you haven't tried them yet, I think they're well worth your time. Next we have Daughter of No World by Carissa Broadbent. So this is a popular author, I feel like, but I feel like her Wings of Whatever series is more popular. And I personally have read the first 2 of the 3 in this series. And I think these are really fun for longer fantasy romancy books. They give me similar vibes to when I was more actively reading SJM books. And I think they have a little bit better world building and a little bit better mix of the fantasy and the romance for me. Book 2 for me in this series did suffer a little, and I do need to read book 3, but I usually don't love book 2s in like trilogies. I don't know what it is. I feel like book 2s just always kind of suffer because they're trying to like bridge the gap between the first book and the last book. But book 1 for me in this was really fun. It's a very slow burn romance. We definitely have our very like grumpy hero who's been secluded and he doesn't really want to train her, but he decides to, and of course she has this like extreme power that she has to navigate because she's the chosen one. Like, it's the usual tropes. This for me though, like I said, I felt like a nice fun return to tropes we know, tropes we love in these genres, and also a slight twist on them that was engaging and interesting to read, and the audiobook was fantastic. So there's that. Last but not least, the book I am in love with right now, obsessed with right now, can't get over right now, just read this month that this goes up. Like, I literally finished this book this month. It's in my favorites. It's fine. The book is In a Jam by Kate Canterbury. This was my members pick for March, and I have not shut up about this book since I finished it. It is already in multiple Reckless videos. Sorry, not sorry. It deserves every bit of attention it has gotten, and I'm so excited to read more from Kate Canterbury. Oh my goodness. So this is a second chance-ish childhood friends to lovers now, / arranged marriage of convenience. No, childhood friends to lovers, marriage of convenience. So Shay has left at the altar by her fiance. The day of the wedding, he tells her that morning as she's getting ready. And her friends, of course, surround her and support her. And I think one of the highlights in this book for me is her friend group and how much they support her, because it's really fun to see that happen on page. I think it worked really well for me. And then we follow Noah, who is currently a single parent to his niece, and his sister got into some trouble and all these things, and his mom's like off, and he is running the family farm. His dad's since passed. Like, he is running the family farm and turning it into a profitable business, so to speak. And it's really fascinating because Shay ends up inheriting the farm next door, which was her step-grandmother's, and has to get married within a year to keep the property, otherwise it has to go to the town. Noah left his like hotshot job in New York City as a lawyer to come run this farm. And Shay is like, I gotta take a break from being a teacher. I have to figure things out after being left at the altar. So she runs off to do that with her grandma's like tulip farmer situation. And she has an idea, like to open a wedding venue there. And we follow the best thing ever, which is her stumbling upon Noah again and him being like, oh my God, it's you. It's you. And Shay didn't remember a lot of their high school stuff. She had forgotten things they said, promises made. And Noah basically talks her into an arranged marriage so she can get the farm. And he will help her open her dream of the wedding venue situation at that farm. And we followed the two of them and Jenny, the little girl, who is fantastic. Oh my gosh, she's so funny. I don't love kids in books usually, but I love Jenny. And we follow their very slow build of like, oh no, I have feelings. And oh no, we're gonna act on those feelings a little bit here. And oh, we're gonna save each other from people. And like, there's like at one point Shay like gets tipsy at a bar with some new coworkers because she ends up like substituting at the school, and they leave her accidentally because I forget she's there, and he comes to get her and carries her out and is like, no wife of mine is gonna be drunk in a bar alone. And I was like, he's very my wife, and it's the best. I love my wife energy. So that was fantastic to read. We also follow just this really sweet progression for the two of them. Her friends just being like, he's the one, like him, come on. You know, and Shay's just over here trying to figure it out after getting left at the altar. Was she forcing things with this ex and all these things? Lots of reveals, lots of things happen. We also have a really great like overarching storyline here, but I feel like we have a lot of mini micro plots that are resolved as you continue to read. And that worked for me extra well and also kept me really engaged. This is another one I did not want to put down. If I was not vlogging it for my members, I think I would have just devoured it in one sitting, to be honest, because that is exactly what I wanted to do with it. And I think it just like was fascinating to read. So fun to enjoy. I felt like overall, like this just blew it out of the water. It took tropes that are so simple that we have seen done time and time again, but delivered them in such a fascinating way and so different than how we normally get them, and in a way that was just like so fun. I'm just shocked. I know a lot of people love this book. I've heard nothing but good things about this book pretty much, and I get it. And I'm also on board with Kate Canterbury now. So I'm just really excited to see what else I read from her and love. But you know, it's intimidating. It's like 480 pages. It's a lot of books. book. And yet somehow she takes, like I said, these tropes that we know and have seen done over and over again and makes them so good. So I highly recommend In a Jam if you're looking for a fun marriage of convenience contemporary to read. And don't get too stressed out about the third act stuff, because it was fine. It was good. Like, it worked out. I liked how it worked out overall. So yeah, those are my favorite long romance recommendations. Let me know what long romance books you love, because I want to come back and do this again. I want to have more long books that I like, because it is fun to just be in a world for a while. So you can leave me those down below. If you don't want to do that, leave me a book stack emoji, because I like big books. We like big books here. So book stack, I feel, is appropriate. I don't know what else to do for long books. I will have links to all these books for you down below, links to my friend anywhere on the internet, and I will talk to y'all in just a few days. Bye.
Already packing, come with me. I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know.